live. So as we wait for people to pile in, I want to know how did you enjoy the game? Because I know it was Nolan's first Fresno State football game.
It was. He slept through the first quarter, which was fine, and then second quarter, he didn't hate it. He's also not quite 5 months old, so he was just kind of playing on the ground and having a good time. But and then my wife and him went to my in-laws to go to the watch party, and I stayed home because I didn't want to go, and I watched it at home in my living room by myself. But to be honest, sometimes that's the way I prefer it, especially in a tight game and it's close. So.
You can say whatever you want. You can yell as loud as you want.
That's right.
That's pretty good, man. I should have. I figured you guys were having a watch party, but yeah, we enjoyed it with family and friends over at my house. And I mean, when there's family and friends around and you're hosting, you catch here and there. You catch the game here and there. So
right.
I saw most of the game, and then I went back and watched more of it. But I mean, we had a good time. It's always fun to enjoy sports with people.
Totally. I would agree with that, except for Fresno State, I would say. I don't know. I'm particular about the viewing environment. And if there's like a bunch of negative Nellies around me, I am not a fan of that. And plus, I want to make sure that, the TV is going to work. I have a good place to sit. And so, if it's a place that I haven't been to before, I'm probably going to say no respectfully. And I'm just going to watch it at my own house.
All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't text you then. No, I don't. There wasn't a bunch of negative Nancy's or Nellies. What you said, Nellies?
Yeah.
At our place, we just want to see them succeed. If you're in the chat, feel free to let us know you're here by telling us where you're enjoying the show from or where you enjoyed the game from. I see Bulldogs Bob is here. What's going on, Bob? Good evening. We're gonna go. So how today is gonna go before we get started? I'm gonna hit the music, then we're gonna get to social media responses, and then we're gonna run through the numbers. There's plenty of content, Caleb, for you and I to just have a conversation with the content that people left with their reactions, and I'm sure we'll see it in the chat as well. There's a lot to talk about. I think there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Whether you think it's good or bad, it makes for great content. So we're excited for this one. Tim's here. When guests come over to the house to watch the game, they can only talk during commercial breaks. I think I've shared this story before, but I think it was 2 years ago. I believe it was when we played Cal Poly at home. Was it Cal Poly or Sac State? But Paul Leffler invited me to be his spotter. And so I showed up, and of course, Pat Hill is sitting on the other side, and Paul's sitting between us. And what a great opportunity to talk about offensive linemen and things like that with none other than Pat Hill. So I looked over across. Paul asked Pat a question about offensive linemen. I believe it was a particular offensive lineman, what he thought about it and things like that. And Paul just puts up his finger and looks at me and shakes his head. No words were said. And then I believe about 5 minutes later, after Coach Hill was done looking at the players were warming up, the game had not started yet. About 5 minutes later, Paul goes, "When we're in the booth, we only talk Fresno State football. That's it. And about the game. That's all we do." Okay, got it. No problem.
Lesson learned. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, it was great, though. Paul is the kindest person around. It was a great time. But I agree. The viewing experience, when Fresno State football is on, it's about Fresno State football. And unfortunately, that was not how it was. Not unfortunately. That's not how it was at my house. I very much enjoyed my time watching the game, though. Derek's here in Michigan still. What's going on, Derek? And so be sure you guys can follow us on X, beware_Bulldogs, and on YouTube. Hop in the chat, the live chat. We go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. now to recap the games. Caleb, shall we get this party started?
Let's do it. Hit the music.
Hello, Red Wave. Welcome to Beware Bulldogs Podcast. Caleb Nail, Caleb Pletz. Let's talk some Fresno State football. Fresno State Bulldogs played Michigan Wolverines. If you live under a rock and you did not know that, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. But they played Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They lost 30-10. What we're going to do, I mentioned it right before, but if you skipped ahead, and because you're tuning in later, because we go live every Sunday now to recap games, 7 p.m., make sure you're following on X, Beware_Bulldogs, and YouTube, Beware Bulldogs. As you know, I got to remember to say all those things, and then I forget where I'm going with that. But anyways, plan for the day. Lots of good things happened during the game. Lots of bad things happened during the game. Came out with an L. That's never fun, but we're going to talk about it all. We're going to go through social media reactions. We put out a post for people to react to it. We're going to go through that, talk about it, then we're going to talk about the numbers and storylines and things like that. We're going to have a lot of fun. Before we get started, in the chat, I see Derek. It's good to see you. Bulldogs Bob channel gained a lot of new subscribers this last week. We did. The Michigan fans were wonderful to us. Other than 3 comments on YouTube, not that I'm counting, but out of the 60, only 3. So we're doing all right there. Michigan fans treated us well. I saw people posting on social media that the Michigan fans treated everyone well there. So I appreciate the Michigan fans and the people that had us on as guests. It was a great time, and you guys. And the Red Wave was unbelievable this week with the engagement on social media and on YouTube. And I think, Caleb, in less than 48 hours, we had over 10,000 views and listens on our 2 episodes on YouTube, X, Spotify, iTunes, everything. You guys are insane. It was wild. So with that being said, today's episode is brought to you by Givoli Winery out in the beautiful town of Biola. Take Shaw, go west, turn right if you're going west. North on Biola, there's a winery out there with brick oven pizza. They support the program. Wonderful local wine. They have events, multiple events, and live music. They are open Saturdays and Sundays, noon to 5. I need to get a bottle in here so I can show you what the logo looks like. They don't sell in stores though, but it's all locally owned. All the grapes are grown here in the valley. If people says they can't make good wine out of local grapes, don't believe them. Go try Givoli Winery. It looks like Zavelli Winery. So check them out. We are also brought to you by Manage X. Caleb, tell them about Manage X.
Yes, another great partner of ours and supporter of Fresno State football specifically. So local property management company, service residential and commercial property. And if you have headaches with tenants and just need help, they're your go-to guys. So you can check out their website, managex.net, and they'd be happy to discuss their services with you.
All right, Caleb, let's jump on X really quick. And thank you guys for all the love in the chat. I really appreciate you guys. You guys make this fun and enjoyable for us. Like whenever I'm down and I'm really busy, I know I'm going to jump in the chat and I can see Bulldogs Bob, Derek, Andrew, Tim, like all these guys in here. They're gonna bring me up. So I'm not down right now. I got over that from Saturday, so we had some time to recover. Actually, this came from my father-in-law's place. You know what today was, Caleb? It's first day of dove season.
Oh, not a hunter, so that's definitely not on my radar.
Well, I did not make it to hunt, but I made it to the dinner, and this was my son's first time seeing barbecue dove. You know, looks like a bird. Didn't sound like a bird; it was dead. But looking at it, like, oh, I'm going to eat that. Oh my! So, anyways, but we had a good time. Okay, no more distractions. Sorry. Sierra Nevada Sam over on X. As I just hit back, and okay, here we go. Sierra Nevada Sam says, "Dogs put up a good fight. Now, as Skipper said, let's not let Michigan beat us twice. Time to focus on Sacramento State and Mountain West." As Classy Dog said, that is our new AD, Garrett Classy. "Let's be the best version of Fresno State we can be." And he put out this beautiful picture. Looks like him watching the game on a golf course. Very jealous. I want to talk about Skip and how he got the guys fired up to play for Michigan, because I like what I saw. Now, we're going to get to another thing because it did come up in the comments, things like that about clock management and things like that. But we'll get there. We'll talk about. But before all of that, the team entering into Ann Arbor, ready to play. I really like what I saw from Tim and his energy. And I think we knew what we were going to get from him, and he delivered. What were your thoughts?
Definitely. I think that we have seen that one of Skipper's strong suits is the ability to be a motivator and to get the players to buy in. So the team certainly looked ready to play, and they were very fired up to compete. And I think that they did that. So I don't have any issues with how Skipper managed the game and managed the team. I think that for really introductory game, I know he coached the bowl game last year, but for first game of the season and against the defending national champion, I think he did an excellent job. So I don't view that as an issue. So I think that it's only up from here, and this team can definitely win a lot of games.
Yeah. We will talk about the negatives, but I will say overall, I'm very excited, Caleb, from what I saw. Like, not often, and there's going to be things I say that we need to fix. Like, we have to get better. We obviously, it's week 1, game 1. But I am encouraged from what I saw. All right, sidelines. Fresno State says great effort, a very winnable game. I 100% agree, and that's kind of my frustration in some of these areas because it was very winnable. A few things go our way, and we might be talking about a different story. This defense is legit and is going to be a problem this year. Offensively, have to cut out the turnovers. Hopefully, Malik gets healthy soon. Going to be a fun year. Go Dogs. 100% agree. If you did not know, believe me, Malik turned his ankle before in practice before. So he came in and he wasn't 100%. And you could kind of tell, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he was still very effective in the ways they used him. I'll keep going, Caleb, because we have quite a few. This is game 1. By the way, thanks everyone for sharing your pictures. It was great. Randy Buller, going to be in an airplane and miss the recap. Oh, well, Randy, when you listen to it, thanks for sharing. Atmosphere at the game was incredible. By the way, he shares a picture of him and his son in the big house. It's awesome. It looks awesome. No doubt the best game atmosphere I've ever been to, hands down. Thanks for making me jealous, Randy. Michigan fans are a class act. I may have become a fan. Dog fans could learn a lot. I have no doubt. Tim Sasoyev, great effort all around. Was most impressed by staying in the game for all 4 quarters. Offense will find its rhythm if we can give Keene some protection. Defense was on point. I think we even made a field goal from the left hash.
That is true.
The second it happened, my phone lit up, and Caleb Pletz was texting me that this season we're on the right track. We hit a field goal from the left hash. Caleb, Tim brings up the offensive line. Well, he didn't bring up the offensive line. He brought up giving Keene protection. We know what that means, though. And he was impressed by us staying in the game for all 4 quarters. But I want to talk about the offensive line. What were your initial impressions or thoughts about the offensive line?
I think that they performed better than I expected, which I know it didn't look great, but considering we had one drive in the first half that we were able to move the ball. And I think regardless, it was going to be an extremely uphill battle. Their defensive line was incredible. And with this being the first game for this offensive line unit to go up against the best defensive line they're going to face all year, I'm optimistic. Though granted, numbers don't reflect that, especially in the rushing game. But I am taking this as a positive that I think that this team can improve from this. And that it's going to be okay, because this is going to be the toughest that this offensive line is going to have to go against.
That D line is legit. Those are NFL guys, and our offensive line held up. And I think, growing up, I was always told, keep your expectations low, so you'll always be pleasantly surprised. I think that our expectations were pretty low for offensive line play. But I'll tell you one thing is Matt Smith has those guys on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
They played together. They were strong. They held their own. I'm happy with that. That D line is going to make other Big Ten teams look just as bad. That D line and that secondary are going to make quarterbacks look silly, and they've done that the past 2 years. So,
and if you're looking at discipline too, I can only recall, I think there was one holding penalty. I don't remember any false starts. Maybe there was one. So I think that's a positive sign too, especially in a really loud, hostile environment, to maintain composure like that. I think that's definitely a good sign for the offensive line.
Yeah. Sapper Raider, great defensive game. We haven't talked about defense yet. We will spend a lot of time there. Don't worry. And honestly, the offense played exactly how a team would play against the number one defense in the nation with the number one DB in the nation. The score does not paint the true picture. There you go, Caleb, of the on-field play. Glad I was there, and hats off to fans. Very welcoming. Yes, drip dropping. Good effort. Gave us hope even behind the third quarter. I don't know if Mikey had mistakes. Michigan D is top-notch. Other QBs would have done the same. Yes, ESPN had given Michigan an 89% chance of winning. The true test is next week. I demand a minimum 30-point victory. I think expectations are now higher than they were going into the season. Even after a loss and only scoring 10 points, expectations are higher, especially going up against an FCS team. Single-use plastic. Dogs front seven is really good. Back end is sticky. Offense had some trouble finding rhythm, not unexpected. Offensive line performed pretty well given what they were up against / recent history. Moss is a dude. Our next NFL wide receiver. Expect to see a far better Mikey next week. Jalen Moss is legit. Sherrod will be fine. The Michigan boys are huge. Like us to open up our playbook a little more, but he is worried about the Dogs' secondary. Yes. We'll get there. Some areas, not all. We have this is from Rodrigo. We have the best defense in the Mountain West, and I strongly believe we will have a top 15 defense in the country, 100%. After I saw what Wyoming and Boise did defensively over the weekend, we have the best defense. We had a chance yesterday, but Keene was a little off. Nevertheless, Michigan has a great defense, and our QB faced consistent pressure. O-line was a surprise as they play decent. Matt, defense looks to be scary. Mike, offense is going to miss Jeff Tedford big time. Tedford is a difference maker. And I didn't see that last night. Yes, Caleb, here's the thing that I want to talk about that comes up is we have heard a lot with these comments about Mikey not having a great game, running game struggled, offensive line was better than expected. I gave Mikey some time, not a lot of time. But in my opinion, Caleb, the hardest part about all this to judge it was the play calling by OC Pat McCann. And the reason I say that is because we get down in the goal line. We did throw a wide receiver screen that ended up in the end zone, the wrong end zone, pick 6 to Will Johnson. Great play by him. Now here's the thing. I don't know if it was executed the right way. I'm not sure because we had 2 guys block the same guy. I don't know I watched it multiple times. And Jalen Moss also turned and didn't move. Right. Typically, when the ball is thrown to you, at you, and you're not moving, you run to the ball and get it. Not sure how they want that play executed, but it just seemed off. I don't think that was Mikey's fault. That was the play call. He caught it, turned through it, and Johnson broke on it and didn't turn back. I think the play calling was a little iffy this game. And remember, this is the first time McCann is calling a game from the sideline. in grand scheme of things, I thought he did okay, but there's areas that we need to improve on. And I think that was the biggest difference. If I'm going to pick something, the biggest difference in the final score. What are your thoughts on that? And if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, please tell me.
I think I mostly agree with you in terms of like a grade for McCann. I give him average. I don't know, maybe a C. I think that I can kind of see maybe his thought process in trying to be balanced. And like, even though Michigan has a really good defensive line and there's stuff in the run, we're still going to commit to it to try to be balanced and try to open up things in the passing game. But at some point when we keep getting like 1 or 2 yards every time we're running up the middle, you would think that there would be some sort of adjustment. So I do want to mention, though, Skipper indicated that, this game plan was different than what they're going to be doing the rest of the time. They were trying to slow it down, eat some clock, limit the possessions for both teams, and then just try to keep it close. So, maybe there was a bit of restraint from Skipper put on McCann and saying, hey, let's eat the clock and just keep it conservative. So, maybe we give him a little bit of a break there, and we'll maybe have a more stern judgment after next game. But it was frustrating to not see an adjustment there. And it seemed like when Fresno State was going more empty, like 4 or 5 spread out, we were able to find some holes in the defense and find some success. But even when we had more of a max protect, our guys were still whiffing on some blocks, and Malik or Gilliam, whoever was carrying the ball, they were still getting crushed pretty hard. So it's a little frustrating to not see that adjustment. And I agree on the pick six. I don't think that's a play call or I don't think that's on Mikey. That was just a really good play by the defense, and probably, if anything, maybe a missed block or something on the other wide receivers that we're supposed to be setting up the screen.
2 things. Mikey's not free from any of this because, he put some balls in places that let me put it this way. Mikey could have been better in ball placement and his accuracy. At the same time, wide receivers should have caught the ball. Mm-hmm. So tipped balls by our guys that end up in the wrong hands. We got to have those. The other thing is this, though, and back to play calling, is I understand the let's play conservative, limit possessions, but when your defense is that good, like we were legit, our front 7 was amazing. I loved watching them play. And we kind of took away Michigan's identity. They were still effective in areas, but we really, they couldn't do what they wanted effectively. We made it hard for them. So once I see that happening, I want to put my players in the best opportunity to win the game. And to win those games, I don't think you can be vanilla, and I think you need to take risks to win those games, because you look across the field and the guys over there are massive. They're national champions. This could have been a program changing win for us. And I think the way we win that game is we have to open up the playbook a little bit more. I understand why, but you're not going to win those games. And I know this isn't true, but it almost sounds like we're playing for a tie. We're not playing for a win. We're just playing to keep it close, and you're not going to win those games. And I think there's really no excuse after our defense performed that well. So that's one of the frustrating areas for me, is when I heard that, I get it, but at the same time, if we want to win those games, I think we got to open things up a little bit more. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're on track. Defense only gave up 23, and I think our offense should be able to put up 3 touchdowns and a field goal. It could have made the difference there. Obviously, very tough opponent. But defense did enough to earn this team a victory.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Phil R., most impressed with how well the D-line held up against their O-line. Hell of an effort and brings excitement for the season. I agree. I'm going to say things that sound very negative tonight, and may already have, but I want you to know I am very excited about this team because that Michigan team is not bad. Now, I will say Michigan's got a lot to figure out on their end as well. I saw some people in the chat here. Michigan's got to figure out that some O-line and quarterback stuff if they want to win the Big Ten and get back to national contenders. Brandon, traveled to the Big House. Fans are a class act. D-line did a good job last night. Thought they'd run all over us. The run D is solid. Keene did the best he could. Best quarterback there last night. Interesting. What do you think? Do you think Keene was the best quarterback, or was it Warren or Orgy?
That's a tough question. I think just looking at the stats, I think Mikey threw more questionable passes, and I mean he had 2 picks, and I should have had a couple more that were called back. So Davis was probably a little bit more under control, but at the same time, not super impressive. I think that from the Michigan fan perspective, they really don't have a quarterback that is going to keep them competitive with like Ohio State and Alabama, whoever the top teams in the country are. So I think that's going to be a concern in terms of the game. Michigan won, so I think I probably would have to go there. I know that might sound a little harsh on Mikey, but I'm sure he would be, self-reflective and admitting that too.
I think every quarterback was subpar. Whimsically, bubble screen, run up the middle, side out is too predictable. Need a better play repertoire. Yeah. Randy Price and Slow says, hearing Michigan fans complaining at halftime was music to my ears. Kevin Hernandez, the defense was the story and offense needs more work. 100%. Brian Hitz, final score doesn't really reflect how close the game was. Randall's 64. Tedford coaching wins this game. Soft move before half. Hey, Caleb, this is what I talk about. This is one of the things I want to talk about with Skip, and I see it in the chat here, and I saw other people post about it, is we got the ball, I believe, with about 30 seconds left, and we had 3 timeouts. We decided to take it to halftime. What are your thoughts on that?
I was hoping they would do this. Honestly, at that point, I had very little confidence in the offense, and only being down 7 at halftime, I didn't view as a problem. So maybe I was just happy to be there and not getting blown out. But after seeing a tip ball interception and just not a super confident performance from Mikey and being able to drive the ball down the field, I totally do not fault Skip for just taking it to the locker room and say, okay, let's regroup and figure out what adjustments we need to make for the second half and try to win by 8 in the second half. And it didn't happen, obviously, at the end of the game, but I had zero problem just because I don't think that this offense was going to be able to pick up, 50, 60 yards to be able to get into field goal range. And I think that the risk of interception or fumble or something and giving away even more points before the half was highly likely. So I don't have any issue with this at all, which I think that I guess I disagree with a lot of people, and they think that this offense was just going to be able to move the ball. So I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one.
Well, we only scored 1 touchdown, Caleb. So I thought we would at least score 2. So, I mean, once again, it goes against what I just said, and I'm going to contradict myself here because I just said, we have to take risks to go win these types of games. But I agree with you. At that moment in time, we did not look like we were going to be able to move the ball 70 yards in 30 seconds. After we turn the ball over, we need to regroup. We got to talk. I need to talk with Mikey. Let's just go in. Now, I'm not against running the ball on first down and seeing what happens, or throwing a screen somewhere and seeing what happens. And
the funny thing is, I think they did hand it off, and I think we got 9 yards. So it's shoot, maybe we should have been a little bit better with the clock. But
so it's hard to say. We didn't do that, but once again, you have to take risks if you want to win those games. D. Delford As an alumnus of Fresno State, I'm so proud of the way this team fought. Cody Benbow, Skipper has the boys fired up to play. Love seeing the energy that he has brought. Red Wave report, if the defense continues to play as physical as they did each week, this team is dangerous. King of my castle, defense is no joke. Dogs played tough, beat the spread, no major injuries. I'm happy. We should mention that. No major injuries. That's huge. Jaden Davis was ejected from the game. So does he miss a half next game?
I don't think so. I think that since it was in the first half, I think he should be back as a full participant next week.
Sweet. Evren Ayik, I was in attendance and not disappointed with the performance. Former host of the show, Michael Bliss, does our offense stink or did we just face an elite defense? Caleb, I'm sending that to you. Michael wants to know.
I think we faced an elite defense. In this game, the offense was a little stinky, so both. But I don't think the offense stinks in general.
I don't either. It's week one. I thought both offenses were kind of stinky and both defenses were very good. And this is typical for week one, game one in college football. Rolk, moral victory. If we can hang with the national champs, we should win the Mountain West Conference. I agree. Steve O'Grimes, couldn't ask for a better effort against the defending national champs. And last but not least, B. Rice are, it's my boy Bryce Fauché. I really thought we were about to make headlines. We were close. Okay, Caleb, let's talk about, I'm pulling up the numbers. But let's get to the Red Wave in the chat right here because they've been going crazy recently. Compare the play calling from last year at Purdue and last night at Michigan. Maybe if Teddy was the head coach, we win. That is a good point Bulldogs Bob brings up. We saw the playbook open up a lot against Purdue. Honestly, it was probably the best called game that McCann had all season last year. And then this year, super vanilla. What are your thoughts on what Bulldogs Bob says?
It's a good point. And I think it comes down to whether we're playing to win and if we're playing to keep it close. And I think that we were playing to keep it close, keep it respectable. And yeah, I guess maybe you can criticize Skipper for that mentality there. But also two completely different defenses. I mean, the Purdue defense, Fresno State was able to match up with.
Yeah. Spencer, I agree that we probably could have thrown it a lot more, probably had some under center throws, but I think McCann thought with all the drops that were almost picks, he got scared. I mean, there is a point to that the players have to give the coaches confidence to put the game in their hands. And when we're dropping balls or making bad throws, I thought the deep ball from Mikey, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he could see. I don't know. It just wasn't there. So, it's hard as a coach to say, okay, we're going to go out and march in 30 seconds with 3 timeouts when we've kind of had butterfingers. We can't hit the guys in stride. It's hard to know. Matt, thanks for joining, Matt. Matt is a Michigan fan. Coming from a Michigan fan at the game, definitely think opening things up and having some novelty plays would give more potential to pull it out. I 100% agree with that. A lot of talk about defense dominating. Matt also says he had a great time interacting with Fresno State fans. Hope you guys had a great time in Ann Arbor. Okay, Caleb, let's talk numbers here. But I hope no one's okay. So by the way, I should say that if Caleb leaves, it's because Nolan needs help. And he warned me before. So if Caleb runs out of here, that's why.
Yep. It is bedtime and my wife's handling it solo and she is a rock star. We probably should thank our wives every episode for really being the force behind Beware of Bulldogs, because without them, we definitely could not be doing this.
Yes. They are the ones that this podcast is brought to you by.
Exactly.
We also check out Givli Winery and Managex.net. Okay, numbers. Mikey Keene, 22 for 36, 235, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Let's talk about Keen. Okay, let's dive into this one. Okay, let's have a conversation about it. I mentioned deep ball didn't look good. I honestly don't think Mikey could see down there. He is a little smaller quarterback. I don't think he could really see. He wasn't helped by a lot of drops, and I think you're not going to get a lot of time against this Michigan D line. So overall, I thought it was okay. I think some people are overreacting to Mikey because I've seen a lot of it out there saying Mikey's, this was really bad. I don't think it was bad. I think it's a mix of everything. And Mikey just being the quarterback, the guy who touches the ball every time, and maybe I'm biased because I was a quarterback, but I feel like he made the right reads. He hit guys open. I thought he put balls in good places, like the Magdalena back shoulder throw in the end zone. I thought that was a good ball. He had a ball to was it Raylan? Across the middle. It was dropped, and that was the pick. The throw to Jalen Moss, where Jalen Moss made a nice snag. Those are good balls. But he's going to need help along the way, and that's what's beautiful about football is it's a team sport. But I do think it's just okay. It's just there's a lot that Mikey needs to work on. Getting the ball out quicker, making reads. Like, let's not put the ball let me put it this way. He put way too much air under the ball. Way too much air. And to be honest, from my experience is when there's too much air under the ball, it's because kind of scared. You're trying to get it there. You're ready to get hit, and you're just slinging it. And it's a prayer. What are your thoughts on the Mikey Keene performance? And you criticize me for anything that I say as well.
Agree 100% about the deep balls. They were ridiculous. They looked ridiculous on TV. Thankfully, he overthrew them, so that way they couldn't get picked. We saw what the Michigan quarterback, what the result was when he lofted one up and towards the end zone, underthrew it, and Lockridge came up with the pick. So thankfully he overthrew it, or those could have been picks too. But footwork wise, very happy feet in the pocket, fading back. Don't blame him. The offensive line was doing the best that they could against a really elite defensive line. So hey, maybe some criticism on footwork. Also, we weren't the ones back there, so it is kind of tough to give that. And after having a couple dropped balls, kind of question maybe confidence thrown to certain guys. The first one I think was Chaden James was the first drop, and he did not get targeted the rest of the game as far as I'm aware. I'll have to recheck the stats on that. But we did see him really focus on his two constants, Jalen Moss and Magdalena, two guys that he is very confident in. So I do think that was good. He did make some good throws, and they weren't afraid to throw at Will Johnson, Michigan's best corner, which I think is a credit to Mikey. And they weren't just going to the other side and trying to find someone else. They attacked him, and it worked up until the very end when he made a really good read and really good play. So I do want to give Mikey some credit there. But yeah, overall he was everything was high, and when our receivers are all, between 5'9" and 6 foot, you just can't miss high. If he's throwing to Josiah Freeman, maybe it's a different story, but he's out, and we don't have that size with any of our receivers that are on the field. So that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah. Let's see what the Red Wave is saying about Mikey. Lot of talk about his feet, not being settled, getting his footwork right. I think that comes too with a really good D-line breathing down your neck and trying to get the ball out. And the first thing you forget is footwork. Bullish Bob asks, so are you saying Mikey is too short? I never want to say anyone is too short because I got to watch Drew Brees play football. I just think there's a way, you have to change things and learn how to be effective. And Spencer says he had 2 first-round D tackles running at him. So I would be scared too. I believe that. Get that VV, get that W. It disagrees with me. He disagrees with me. He believes the Mac ball in the corner was not a good ball. Go look at the replay. I think there's an argument. Maybe I'm a terrible quarterback and I would have thrown that ball too that same way. So, but no, I don't know. And that's the other part, and we're going to get to it, is wide receivers. Is that I think if it hits you in the hands, it's a pretty decent ball, even if you have to make an adjustment and you got to catch it, especially with the gloves that they have today. Oh, they're amazing, by the way. The gloves are absolutely amazing. I'm surprised that there's any drops, but you got to catch the ball. Bulldogs Bob, I never blamed the quarterback for everything. I saw how much crap Derek got when he was with the Raiders. Mikey's issue with his feet were just as bad as last season. Matt says he thought he did a nice job with timing patterns. I agree. And Andrew says we missed Freeman. Big time. So, yeah, I think that there's going to be disagreements from the fan base about the performance of Keene. I will say, though, just as I say about all quarterback performances in this game, is that it was subpar. All quarterbacks were subpar. Mikey has a lot of room for improvement. Potential is the most dangerous word in the athletic world, and Mikey Keene has a lot of it.
Okay, so maybe last quarterback question. We did see Joshua Wood in the game. So thoughts on Joshua Wood?
He ran the ball. So, I think that there is something to be said about having someone right behind you pushing you. And with Wood getting on the field, however it was, and whatever the play call is, and whether that be designed, a formation, whatever, he's on the field taking snaps. And Mikey knows that. Like, okay, they're going to use him. I got to be my best if I want to keep my job. And I like that. I think it makes us better. What are your thoughts about Wood getting on the field?
I agree. I think I texted that to someone who was texting me during the game. I just said, I hope that Wood and Mandel are pushing Keene and that he's, not complacent in the starting job. I'm sure he isn't, but I think that having two guys, Wood and Mandel, competing behind him and showing that they're competent and even getting a look or two in the game, I think that that's good for the overall, getting the best guy, touching the ball every time. Like you said, the quarterback, the most important player on the field.
All right, Caleb, let's talk running game. Malik carried the ball 14 times for 24 yards. His long was 8. Elijah Gilliam carried the ball 4 times for 12 yards. His long was 9. And then Wood had his rush for 3 yards. But, I thought Wood looked athletic and shifty in those 3 yards. But a lot of the rushing attack, I would say, was up the middle. We talked all week before this, and we talked about how we're going to have to get Malik in space, see what we can do. Caleb, a lot of it was between the tackles. And it just wasn't effective against their front seven. A very good front seven, defensive linemen and linebackers. So what are your thoughts on the running game with Malik led by Malik and Elijah Gilliam?
Malik certainly didn't look like his full potential. You can tell he was a little bit slower, didn't quite have the explosiveness. There was a couple runs in the first quarter that looked good. Like, oh, okay, he must be feeling okay. But after that, he's getting gobbled up, and I don't really fault him for that. The offensive line was doing the best they could. So, obviously he's a competitor. He wants to play, but if he's on a sore ankle, I'd really rather him be solid for the other 11 games and maybe try someone else this game just to try to keep him healthy. And especially after it was clear the rushing attack was going to be really tough to have success there. So, it was frustrating to not be able to get things going, but I don't put any blame on that on the running backs. It was going to be an uphill battle regardless.
Yeah. My one question for you, actually, and Bulldogs Bob kind of talks about it here, is run blocking needs work. If Malik was not healthy, then we should have seen more of Elijah and Bryson Donaldson. And the one question I have written down that I want to get from Yukio that we didn't talk about before was, would you have liked to have seen another running back contribute?
I'm certainly curious about Donaldson. I think he was on the field for a couple snaps, but he has the size of Gilliam, and I think maybe is a step quicker. So to have a little bit more speed with the power, it seems like the ideal situation. So I'm sure he's going to be competing for carries, especially next week against Sac State. Hopefully, offense opens it up, and we can kind of see some of the second teamers that are fighting for reps. So I am certainly curious about Donaldson, especially seeing him in the game. Maybe he's a bigger body, and they felt better, having him in there for pass protection. I don't know, but yes, I am curious about him. We know what Gilliam can do. He can run it straight ahead and get you some tough yards, but doesn't quite have the shiftiness that Malik does, because Malik can kind of make those clogged up runs. He can still squirt out 5 or 6 yards, and maybe Gilliam, that's a 2 or 3 yard run.
What did you think about Malik yanking that dude's towel off and talking trash?
I mean, it's kind of a petty move, but not surprised just from seeing Malik interact. I mean, he's a trash talker and gonna do whatever he can to kind of get under the other team's skin. So, I probably wouldn't have done it if I was in his shoes. But at the end of the game, you're frustrated, and I'm sure they were jawing at him too. So, just funny. I'm sure he didn't keep the souvenir. He probably threw it in the trash.
Did you see what went on at the end of the game in the tunnel?
I did, yeah, which I wasn't surprised. Apparently, this is a big problem. Probably the funniest thing is all the Michigan State fans were saying, "Wow, what a surprise! This never happens." that was funny reaction.
Yeah, if you guys didn't see, they were just jawing at each other, and I think the GV Wire put it out, but this happens everywhere. Everywhere you go. It just so happens that they put both locker rooms right next to each other. What do we think is going to happen? I mean, right. Thank goodness, no blows were thrown. So it's fine. I was, this is normal. We're still continuing what happened on the field, and it's fine. I did see Cam step in. Cam Laminuzzi, our friend. Come on, guys. Come on, move it. So, of course, Cam Laminuzzi, he's their, I don't know. He's not called a preacher, but
I think he's team chaplain.
Team chaplain. That's the word. But he is a preacher. I do like Cam. He's a good guy. He stepped in. Okay. Let's talk about receiving, because we talked about the drops, but here's the numbers that we have. Jalen Moss, 6 for 97. Mac Delana, 6 for 67. Raylan Sharp had 2 for 23 and the touchdown. Cam Beecham, 2 for 19. Nathan Acevedo, 2 for 19. Malik had 2 for 10. Jadon James had 1 reception for 3 yards. Elijah Gilliam did have a catch. He lost 3 yards on that. Caleb, anybody that stands out here? We heard some people talking about Jalen Moss and how he's the dude. He's going to follow in the footsteps of the past. Well, we are wide receiver U, so the past wide receivers. What are your thoughts on the wide receivers?
This was the game and performance I was hoping for and also expecting from Jalen Moss. We've been kind of waiting for this. Last year, he showed some flashes, and hopefully this is the consistent performance from Jalen Moss. And I do think it helped that Mikey was targeting him a lot. And even, in tight coverage, Moss just made some really good catches. So I think he did have one of the drops that ended up in interceptions, the one over the middle. But overall, very solid game from him, and very skilled. Same thing with Magdalena. I mean, a guy that's really put in the time in the program, 5th or 6th year guy. He's been here a long time and is finally getting some looks and reps as a dependable wide receiver on the outside. Besides that, it seemed like Mikey was throwing a lot of outs to Cam Beecham, 3rd and 10, and we're throwing it at the line of scrimmage. So that's frustrating. I don't fault Beecham for that. He's just running the route that was called for him. But the rest of the crew, Acevedo made a really nice catch, and Sharp had the touchdown, which he was able to make a move, make a guy miss in space, and get to the end zone. So we have to give him some credit for that, for being able to make a play.
Yeah. I liked what I saw from Beecham. I'm excited to watch Beecham play. We talked during the recruiting season how we just kept seeing wide receivers come in, right? We have so many wide receivers committing to Fresno State, transfer portal guys and things like that. And now we know why. Like, they're going to use them. They're going to use them all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about it. I think this was a group that there were some question marks after the three, Josiah Freeman, who didn't play, then Jalen Moss and Magdalena. After that, we didn't really know what exactly we had. We knew we had some quick guys, and then we saw what was coming in the transfer portal, but how are they going to mold together? I'm really excited for this class of wide receivers. I think they're going to be successful this year. As long as what I've been saying all year is we're going to go as far as our O-line takes us. So if we continue to play, here's what I think. If our O-line plays like they did yesterday, Mikey's going to have a lot of time against lesser competition, lesser front sevens in the Mountain West. Because we're only going to get better as long as we don't get hurt. So that does excite me. And with the playmakers that we have outside, we can make a lot happen. One name, Caleb, that I wanted to bring up that I didn't read was Jake Boust.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Boust not having a reception? The other thing I did want to bring up, as you could talk about Boust, and but the first play we ran a 2 tight end set, and it's kind of what we saw a lot of because we had to block. I think that helped a lot. But we didn't see Boust get involved in the passing game. What are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised. Most of his career here, he's been primarily in for blocking situations. Obviously, he is capable of making receptions and running after the catch. But it seems like Beacham has kind of taken a step past him in terms of who's a bigger threat to make a catch and maybe make a guy miss. So Beacham getting more targets makes a lot of sense. No discredit to Boust. He's in there doing his job, and whatever the play call is, he's going to do his best to execute it.
Okay, let's talk defense, Caleb. Front seven looked awesome. I mean, the D-line, my goodness, you guys. I mean, if any of the D-linemen listen to this, you guys are legit. I thought the linebackers were awesome. My key to the game was wrap up, tackle for the most part. I thought we did a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, I forget who it was. This one D lineman came through and just destroyed someone. I think it was Lightfoot. Caleb, I had so much fun watching this Fresno State defense. It reminded me of 2018. There was no fear there. I want to start with the good, and then we'll get to the bad. Talk to me about the good from this defense. We're hearing defensive line and linebackers, and then don't forget Cam Lockridge with the pick. But talk to me about the good and what you liked.
Yeah, starting front seven, the rotation of the defensive line. I think there was at least 8 guys that got in there, maybe more. It's kind of hard to see personnel on TV, but Ezra Christensen had a couple of huge plays. Gabriel was a constant in there, and that was eating up the middle. And I think Corey Foreman did get some playing time and did a good job. I think the biggest standout in the first half had to be Tuasivi. It seemed like he was in on almost every play. Maybe not getting credit for a tackle, but he was always around the ball, and it seemed like he was playing a whole lot faster than he did last year. So good. He's going to be a key for this defense. But overall, yeah, really pleased with how they were able to just sell out and stop the run. And a couple times, or maybe more than a couple, the Michigan offense got the best of them. But overall, really solid tackling. No real gross missed tackles. So I don't really have a ton of complaints here. Cam Brockett leading the way with tackles, a little surprising. He was kind of the cleanup crew on this one, and did make a couple tough tackles in space. But he also was kind of matched up on 18, their tight end, a couple times, which was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, this was my one negative for the night when it comes to the defensive side of the ball is they obviously targeted Loveland and Cam Baraka. And, I mean, they were very successful. So I think like Cam's going to have to be ready if teams watch that because they're going to target him. Granted, we talk to Michigan fans and podcast writers. Like, Loveland is a top 3 tight end in the country. You're not going to face a tight end like that ever again this season. But I think it's really important that he's ready now. And I think it was a great learning experience for Baraka.
I think that if you take Loveland off of Michigan, this is a completely different game because he was really the only one that dominated Fresno State. And I think he had one drop, but other than that, every time they were throwing to him, he was open, making the catch and getting, at least 8 to 10 yards, if not more. So if you take that away and take away the interception on the first drive, Fresno State very much could have been more in this game. But a lot of what ifs. Loveland's a really good player and was a difference maker and kind of a safety blanket for the Michigan quarterback.
What did you think about our nickelback play?
I didn't really notice anything. I mean, Reagan was in there a little bit. I know that it looked like, obviously Davis ejected early for the targeting, which tough play. He's lowering his head, but so is the runner. It's just a frustrating football play that unfortunately is against the rules. But other than that, I didn't really notice them. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. No real blown assignments or anything. I do think that the cornerback play was very good. We'll talk about Cam here in a little bit, but even Julian Neal getting playing time, he made some big tackles and was good in coverage. Alzillian was good too. I think he left with a cramp for a little bit, but I think he came back after that. But overall, I mean, corners were covering. Maybe there's a bit of a cushion, and sometimes they were matched up on Loveland and they got beat. But overall, no real blown assignments, and they were doing their job. So overall, I don't really have any complaints with the secondary either.
Yeah, we were talking to the guys from Michigan, and they were saying their biggest question mark was going to be their wide receivers against our corners. Now, you could talk about their quarterback play along with that, but I'm really excited for our corners, man. I mean, with our front seven putting pressure on quarterbacks and stuffing the run, I think that's going to leave a lot of balls in the air for Cam Lockridge and Alzillian Hamilton to go make a play on, especially Cam. That pick was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, just, as knowing him, having a relationship with him, and getting to talk to him, knowing him as a player and as a human being, I was so pumped. I yelled at the TV for Cam, and then we know what Cam says after he gets a pick, or what he talks about, what he wants to do after he gets a pick, and that's house it every time. And so now we got to give him heck. So because he slowed down, man. But I get it. You got to wait for your blockers, but Cam, we got to house that thing, baby. But it was a great play. I'm excited for Cam and Alzillian. They're going to be pretty good this year. They can have special seasons if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Anything on Cam's pick?
Made a good play, and probably more importantly, didn't have any pass interference or anything. Didn't push the guy over. Just made the right move, positioned himself, made the catch, and got running. So really good performance. Good to see him back healthy. And he had a pretty big tackle for loss in the backfield and some solo tackles too to stop Michigan runners. So I think that he is a really good player on the outside. Glad we have him, and hopefully he's going to get some more picks this year against lesser Mountain West competition.
Special teams, Caleb. Talk to me about Dylan Lynch. 1 for 1, left hash, money. We're going to have a good season. 1 for 1 extra points. He kicked 2 balls. The expectation was that he would do this. He performed well. That Zavada kid from Michigan, geez Louise, crushed a 55-yarder. He would have hit that from 60 easy. But anyways, Fresno State. Lynch
Lynch was nails. He crushed that too. That one would have been good for way farther back, right down the middle. So very pleased with that. And
the 41 yarder, by the way,
yep,
everyone had.
Yep. And just it's nice to have an experienced kicker that you can have some trust in. So very pleased with Dylan. On the punting side, maybe I was a little optimistic about Clay Lawrence, and given that he's a freshman, he still got some football to learn coming. I guess this was his first organized football game ever. I guess I didn't realize that, but coming from Australia, maybe they don't really play American football there, but it was okay. Maybe he could have had some more hang time on the punts or better direction. And the Michigan return game was much stronger than Fresno State's coverage. I know on the kick returns, they were returning it to like the 30 every time, and the punt coverage wasn't great, probably because not enough hang time on the punt. So I think my preseason prediction about Clay Lawrence is maybe like a season or two early. So we'll stay tuned on that. But overall, we didn't give up any returns, so I guess that's good. But kick coverage and punt coverage, not as sharp as we would have liked.
Yeah, definitely needs to improve. I thought same thing about kickoff return or kickoff coverage. I need to see a lot more from Clay. Like, as in, I need to see better kicks from Clay if we want to win the field position battle, which was going to be huge in this game. When Ashton Jainty's on the other side, well, we don't even play him this year, but anyways, whenever we play, it doesn't matter. You got to win the field position battle. If you're losing that battle, it's going to be tough. So how would you like to play your first ever organized football game in front of what was 107,000, 110,000 fans? That's insane. Welcome to America, Clay.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, what a cool experience, though. Everything else after this is going to be a letdown. I mean, imagine going to Hawaii and playing in front of 5,000. It's going to be brutal. But it's only up from here, and I'm sure he's going to be putting in a lot of work with Coach Baxter, working on things. Yeah,
that's one coach I have lots of faith in. Coach Baxter, he's going to be just fine. Anything on the Michigan side, Caleb, that you want to talk about? One thing for me is Mullings had more carries than Edwards. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a little curious about that. I know I was following along to Anthony Broom, the guy that came on and did the get to know with us. I was kind of following along his tweets during the game, and he tweeted the RB1, where's number 20? So I think that they're feeling confident that maybe Edwards is just not cut out to be the lead back, and Fresno State handled him, and I was very pleased with that because I saw how much damage he did in the college football playoff last year, just ripping big runs. So the fact that we did limit Donovan Edwards was very cool to see. But Mullings, very good running back and very capable. Probably should be their starter just based on this performance. And overall, not terrible. I mean, Fresno State only gave up 148 rushing yards. 32 of those were on quarterback runs from Orgy. So all things considered, the rushing defense really did a good job of shutting down Michigan. And yeah, obviously the offense needed to do more, but I am pleased with how the defense played.
Is this, we had 11 years without the college football video game. The first guy on the cover, Donovan Edwards. Is this a curse? Is this already starting?
Maybe it is. I mean, in the old games, it was always a former player, so there wasn't any risk of being a curse. But yeah, that is kind of interesting. I'm sure he's going to bounce back and have a big game, a good season. I don't think he's lost his ability as a running back, but it was interesting that first game after the video game, like you point out, he was shut down by Fresno State.
Michael says, we are saving Edwards for Texas.
There you go.
Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting because Quinn Ewers was on that cover too. So, Caleb, let's get to the Mountain West scoreboard. Is there anything else that you have written down or anything that you want to talk about when it comes to the game last night? And then actually, Should we do the scoreboard after player of the game and play of the game and things like that?
That was going to be my suggestion. Let's do player of the game and player of the game, play and player, and then we can get to the rest of the scoreboard.
Okay, play of the game and player of the game, brought to you by Givli Winery and ManageX.net. Check them out. Two local businesses that love supporting dogs and support Boyer Bulldogs here. Caleb, your play of the game.
I think that has to be the Cam interception. That was a momentum shifter for Fresno State. If that doesn't happen and they score a touchdown.
Caleb, real quick, just for all Michigan fans, this has to be a Fresno State play, by the way. So we know this is not the real play of the game, but this is a Fresno State play of the game. Sorry, Cam interception. Go ahead.
Correct. Cam interception, turned the momentum, got us into decent field position. I think he brought it out to 30 or 35, so set up a better opportunity for the offense. It has to be that play for me.
Other than the Will Johnson pick six, which is the real play of the game. I'm going to say it was I really like the entire drive that we actually scored on. I would probably say the Cam Lockridge play or and I don't agree with the call, but the great acting by Mikey Keene when he got shoved and the roughing the passer call. That was play of the game right there.
There you
go. But yeah, Will Johnson pick six. That was, I was getting ready. I'm like, well, we're going to have a shot at this too. All right, everybody, pour me another glass of wine. Let's go. Let's load up the bus. That was a bummer. That was a bummer way to end the game. And my phone, Caleb, to be honest, I turned my phone off because, not only we text during the games, my brother and I text during the games, and then I get every Twitter and X notification on planet Earth when Fresno State is playing. And there were people at my house, and I was in the middle of conversations, like, I can't have this distraction anymore. Turned it off. But when I opened my phone back up, phone was going crazy, loading back in. And a lot of people it went from high to low right away. And I don't know, it was a bummer, man. Oh, this is what the main part I wanted to get away from this is that I had text messages saying typical Fresno State. We were there in it all game. We're playing tough, and then it's just one play that just sucks the wind out of the sails. And it's, I can't say I disagree with that, but that's how close Fresno State is against these P5 schools all the time. If we're not winning, like we beat the Purdues of the world, I say we're better than the Rutgers, UCLAs of the world. We're better than them. But when we play these tough teams, USC, Michigan, we have these big games, Minnesota twice, we're one play away from being in this game. And, oh, man, it hurts, to say the least.
It does hurt, but thankfully there's 11 more games that we get to focus on, and we're going to beat the Hornets this week, no problem. So at least we have that to look forward to.
Yes. Player of the game, Fresno State, player of the game. But I am also curious who you would pick for Michigan, because I think that would be tough.
Yeah, Michigan player of the game, I'm picking Loveland, the tight end. I think that he really was the difference maker on offense and was the safety blanket for the quarterback. So he is my player of the game. For Fresno State, I think you really have to go defense just based on how well they played. Statistically, Braca had the most tackles, but in terms of effort, I'm tempted to give it to Tuasivi Nomura, even though statistically he wasn't really the biggest performer. Cam obviously had the interception, so I don't know. I think I'll give it to both of them. I'll give it to Tuasivi and Cam. They can split in half and share it.
I'm copping out. I'm giving it to the D-line because it's a group award tonight. I think we talked about it. This group, this defense, all offseason long was the least talked about, the most overlooked, I'd say, group when it comes to like group of five talk, Mountain West talk. No one was talking about Fresno State defense. unless you listen to Beware Bulldogs, which all we do is talk about Fresno State. So you heard it, that they're going to be pretty good. And this D-line showed the entire country, hey, we can play too. Now, I'm curious to know what Michigan fans have to say, because they were question marks at, I believe it was right tackle and center, or was it left tackle? There were question marks on the offensive line. But at the same time, we also heard, they were reaffirming that even though there's question marks or battles there going on, these guys have been here a while. They're strong. We're confident. And our D-line looked really good. I'm really excited. So that's my pick. I agree with you. Loveland, probably player of the game. When you have new quarterbacks in, you see a lot of times in the NFL with rookies, they rely a lot on their tight ends. So check down. When all else fails, check down. All right, Caleb, let's get to the Mountain West scoreboard really quick. Did I miss anything?
Nope, I think we covered it.
Okay. After I scroll past all this week 0 stuff, Sac State disappointed me. They were winning over San Jose State Thursday, and they dropped that game. I was hoping they'd win it. San Jose State won 42-24, but really slow start for San Jose State. Nick Nash, 3 of their 6 touchdowns were he accounted for 3 of their 6 touchdowns. So I don't think that's any surprise there. Caleb, but after watching them against Sac State, I'm pretty confident in our ability to beat Sac this upcoming week or this week, and then San Jose State down the line. I think we got to take it to them. Cam and Nick Nash is going to be Cam Lockridge and Nick Nash will be a fun game. Texas destroyed Colorado State 52-0. I may have talked up Colorado State way too much, Caleb.
Well, I think they were a trendy pick in preseason for a team that could potentially take that next step. I think Texas is a really good team, but getting shut out and spanked like that is a tough look. We'll have to see. I didn't watch the game at all. I just saw a funny video of Colorado State. They had like a sign protector guy, like for the coach giving the signs on the field. He was standing in front of the coach, which is hilarious. So.
We talked about Torrey Horton and BFN linking up and throwing everything around. Marshall, their running back, had 25 carries for 106 yards. So he was their offensive guy. Mm-hmm. New Mexico got smoked by Arizona, 61-39, put up 39 points. Their quarterback led the team on the ground. Dampier, 15 carries, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like New Mexico, at the bottom, they didn't play well week 0 either against Montana State. So take it as you will. Air Force played Merrimack, beat them 21-6. I was down on Air Force. Who knows what happens when we run into them in Colorado Springs, but they were not impressive.
I think they're going to be an Air Force team this year and maybe a little bit worse on offense. But, yeah, definitely Fresno State should be able to handle them.
Boise State was in a shootout against Georgia Southern and ended up pulling away 56-45. Ashton Jainty scored 6 touchdowns. Guy's crazy. He's so good. I'm glad we don't have to play them. However,
yes, this was a crazy game. I actually watched about a quarter of this, and I could not believe Jainty just kept breaking long runs. It was unbelievable. But yes, I agree. I'm probably stealing your point here. Their defense is going to be a problem because they're giving up that many points to Georgia Southern, who I think is probably going to be middle of the pack to bottom of the Sun Belt. It's going to be a long season for Boise State.
Yes. Okay, let me flip over. I was reading the chat. Okay, UNLV. Oh, this was a fun game. UNLV defeated Houston 27-7. I don't know much about Houston, being honest here, but that's a good win for UNLV. And they've been hyped. The hype train for them over the offseason was a long one. This UNLV team's pretty good. Did you catch any of this game, Caleb?
I didn't get to watch any of it, but I do think that it does reinforce the hype, like you said. And so I'm a little bit worried about this matchup because I know Houston has a new coaching staff. I'm sure they had a lot of turnover on both sides of the ball. So going against a team that had continuity from the year before is going to be a tough matchup for any team. But UNLV certainly looks like they belong to be towards the top of the conference in terms of accolades.
Yes, I think after this weekend, it reaffirms everyone's belief that Boise, UNLV, and Fresno are the top 3 teams in the Mountain West. Nevada played Troy, beat them by 2 points. Troy could not convert on a 2-point conversion towards the end of the game to tie it, and Nevada wins. So they're 1-1 now after a close game against SMU where they choked that one away. But a good win over Troy. I like this win. Anything
didn't watch it. Yeah, didn't watch it and don't really care. I don't think Nevada is going to be that great this year, but good for them for getting one in the win column.
Hawaii played UCLA on the island. Hawaii's one touchdown was a fake punt. But they were leading 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, Caleb, and ended up losing this game 16-13. My takeaway from this is that we should beat Hawaii. Also, our last game of the season is in the Rose Bowl against UCLA at the end of their Big Ten gauntlet. We should destroy them. We should beat both of these teams. I was not impressed.
I agree. I watched a little bit of this game just because in our preview, I made the pick that I thought that UCLA was going to lose to Hawaii. I was very close to being right on that. But yes, I think UCLA is in for a very long year. And Hawaii was also not super impressive on the offense. So should be a good setup for Fresno State later in the year.
San Diego State took it to Texas A&M Commerce. Not much to say about that, other than
they were losing at halftime.
Yes, 6-3 at halftime, and then they scored 42 in the second half. So they woke up. O'Neal, their freshman quarterback, threw for 214 and 2 tutties. So the story was Cooper, their running back, 27 carries, 223 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So this is a different San Diego State team than we've experienced the past, 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Utah State beat Robert Morris 36-14 after everything that's going on with Utah State. It's nice that they get a win. I'm happy for them. And then Wyoming, who I thought would be way better, got destroyed by Arizona State 48-7. And their one touchdown came in the fourth quarter. Wyoming, they need some work. So I don't know. Overall, I thought it was okay. Boise, UNLV, Fresno State represented well. I think the win over Troy for Nevada was good. My talk about the Mountain West being one of the stronger conferences in the G5, I don't know anymore. I think we only have 3 teams now. We'll see about Colorado State, but man, they look bad against Texas. So I don't know if anybody gets in with 2 losses or 1 conference loss. I still think if we went out, we get in. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the conference as a whole?
Yeah, some surprises, and also the teams at the top performed as expected and should be competitive. I do think that the Mountain West is still a conference that on any given night, a team might get hot and the favored team might have a down night, and we might have a situation where the lesser team is going to pull the upset because Boise, UNLV, Fresno State, they have the targets on their back, and they're going to get everyone's best shot. I think New Mexico for Fresno State is going to be really tough, especially containing a running quarterback. And so I'm certainly not overlooking that one. But I agree. Kind of the middle and bottom of the conference, disappointing, but should still put up fights against everyone.
Last thing, Caleb, I was saving this one. Brian commented, any concern next week's game will be a replay of week 2 last year against Eastern Washington, where they took us to overtime and we squeaked it out. Any concern with Sac State this week?
I don't think so. I think that the offense is going to be very motivated to put up a good showing. I think that Coach McCann too is going to want to show like, hey, I can actually call good plays and get in the end zone. But if Mikey has another subpar day where he's leaving throws high and tip balls are getting picked off, then sure, yeah, it could be a tricky game for Fresno State. But I think that we should be fine. It's the home opener, should be a good crowd, and I think that this team is going to be motivated to get a win in the win column.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this week. We found a guest for the Get to Know episode, so we will be talking to some people that represent Sacramento State, so that should be fun. I am optimistic, Caleb, after this week. We played strong. I am pumped for this defense. Offensively, we got to figure it out. We got to do a little better. But our O-line, hey, Caleb, Matt Smith may be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He may have figured it out. So I'm excited, man. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. I've just at one point, I think there were 50 of you here at one time. I mean, you guys are awesome. And I couldn't even keep up tonight with what's going on in the chat. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Michigan fans in the chat, love you guys. You guys were awesome all week. Thank you. Tune in if you. But now, please go beat Texas. We need you to beat Texas for us. So, other than that, Caleb, any last words?
That's it. Glad the football's back, and like Tedford used to say, I mean, we're on to the next week. I'm sure Skipper's telling the team now too. We don't need to dwell on Michigan this week. We're focused on Sac State and getting a win.
Hey, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, have eternal life. Thank you, guys. God bless. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.